Hello, this is Sean checking in, Sean Alcide to be particular. Today we're going to be discussing education and the importance of education in our communities and how we can further impact our communities by doing what we do outside of just the building. So I have a few good friends of mine. They'll introduce themselves.
My name is Ryan Brown. I teach at Reed School in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I teach 7th grade math. I've been in education for 6 full years. This is my 7th year in my same role.
My name is Danielle Jones. I am a 9th grade math teacher at Bullard Havens Technical High School. I've been teaching in education for 4 years. My prior experience is as a 7th and 8th grade math teacher.
My name is Raymond A. Mullings, former elementary school and middle school teacher, entering year 3 of Dean of School Culture at Achievement First Public Charter Schools.
Okay, so first question, I want to jump right into it. As an educator, whether a teacher, or Dean of Student Culture, whatever it is that you do, what would you say your greatest role, responsibility is? What would you say, like, you feel like that's my greatest role, if you were to describe it in a sentence or how?
I think my greatest role is being present, and then being present in all contexts, right? And so being present just physically, just being there, not taking a whole lot of days off, not trying to stay healthy, trying to show them that they have some sort of consistency in the classroom, being present through academics, challenging them and not letting them sort of fall back, or not giving them the opportunity to be like, oh, you know what, it's okay if you don't get this, we'll just go on to the next thing. Just being present there, being present for them from a social emotional standpoint, making sure that they know that I care about them, I want them to succeed, I want them to feel good about coming to school, I want them to feel good about coming to the classroom. And that's what I feel like my role is as a teacher.
That's interesting, because I don't think in all the times that I've ever asked a teacher what their greatest job, I don't think anyone's ever said coming to act, like actually being there. Like, even though it's kind of obvious, like, no one's ever stated the importance of, I need to be in school consistently to be able to build a foundational seed with these kids that you're going to be teaching and trying to get through. So that's actually really cool that you mentioned that. What would you say?
I feel our greatest role to me is just producing all around good humans, just making sure that I'm producing students that when they are ready to step out into society, they are prepared to encounter challenges, get knocked down, and get right back up. That's definitely one of the biggest ones. And also, just viewing students as a whole. Some students will come to me as a math teacher and they'll say, oh, I'm not that great at math, or I don't like math. And they have, these math phobias. That's very, it's common. And I think one of the things that's very surprising is that a lot of times with my students, they'll say, wow, I'm not that great at math. I'm like, but you are. Like, you just did this. And they think that, by its luck. And I'm like, as a human being, you are more than just your math skills. You're more than just your English skills. And seeing them outside of the classroom as well, outside of just their content area. You're more than just, I always say the Pythagorean thing. You're more than just the Pythagorean theorem. You're more than just this standard right here. You are a whole human being, and seeing them for who they are so that I can use their strengths to help elevate my practice as well.
I think in my role, my greatest responsibility is twofold. I think zooming in as an administrator, it's having high expectations or holding high expectations of teachers. I think a lot of times at the school leader level, we're reluctant to tell teachers what it is and what it isn't, because we understand, we've taught too, and so we understand, like, this work is hard, it's emotionally draining, the hours are long, oftentimes you go home and grade. But if your classroom culture is poor, if there's not a sense of love and belonging in the classroom, if you're not driving academic results for every child, not just the percentage of kids who are in the green or who are proficient, it's not enough. Like, our babies deserve excellence. And if you're not excellent in the classroom, like, it's my role to let you know and then to help you get there. So I think zooming out as an educator, as a black male educator, I think it's my responsibility to be authentic. Black educators, we come in many sizes, shapes, we have different identities and experiences. And I think it's my job, it's important for me to be true to myself, because there's my experience in my life is not an anomaly. You know, there are kids in our classrooms with similar experiences who do not see themselves, and maybe the one or two black educators that they have. And so I think to myself, who am I not to share my experiences and live through my identities to reach multiple children, so that they're not, I mean, yes, we all grow up with trauma, right? And having a black male educator doesn't excuse those experiences. But I think being an adolescent, being a child, not really having that greater sense of what the world is, being able to tap into someone that looks like you, that reminds you of you, that maybe fills an insecurity you might have, I think is like important to thrive in the classroom, just to come to school and be able to open up your mind to learn.
I think you led us right into our next point, which is, as black male and female educators, like, what weight does that hold to the communities that we serve? Because we all here work in inner cities, right? So it's like, what do you think the weight it holds for, you know, our scholars who look like us, you know, to see people like us having success in a field like this, and to be able to try to drive that same achievement belief in them that they could too do? What would you guys, like, what would you want to lead us off into that?
Yeah, I think, can I rephrase?
Sure.
Is it, I want to make sure I'm answering this correctly. Is it like the weight that, is it the impact on students as a black educator, or the weight, what is the weight of being a black educator?
That is good. That is good, but that wasn't it. The latter wasn't it, but it was, what is the impact for scholars to see you do what you do and to be able to try to reach them? But the other part, we got to get to that too. That was really good.
I think the impact is infinite, right? I don't know who said it, but somebody great said you can't be what you can't see. You know, and so when we look at the education workforce and we see that 2% of black males are make up the workforce, and I don't want to excuse or belittle your experience as a black female educator. Speaking from my identity, I wonder why that is. And like, I grew up, you know, you're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be a lawyer, you know, teaching and the education profession wasn't told to me as something that was like great or of high regard. And so it was not something that I went to college for. It was, even when I became an educator, I had doubts of like, I don't want to update my LinkedIn because people are going to think I'm trash. Like, right. I'm a teacher now. That's changed. But I think that just being who we are in classrooms and being our authentic selves, and, you know, being in this system, but not necessarily conforming to it. And that might be loaded. I might be coming from a different lens there. But I think being in the system, it's important for kids to see that, like, yes, code switching can be essential, but it's okay to exist in this space. Like, we often talk about black excellence, and I feel like that term's like redundant. Just to wake up as a black individual in a system of oppression and a world, a society that's created laws that hold you back, that prevent you from building generational wealth and make it extremely difficult. Just waking up and surviving is excellent, is outstanding in and of itself. So for me, I think the impact on kids is just infinite. They see who they can be and what they can aspire to be.
What did you say just then? That you can't be what
you can't be what you can't see.
And I love that phrase. I've never heard that before, but it just captures like exactly what I wanted to say, to be honest. Because I remember my first year, I had two minority students, two black girls actually. And they was like, well, we can't be doctors because there are no black doctors. And I was like, what? Like, I paused. Everything stopped. Like, what did you just say? And she was like, Miss, have you ever seen a black doctor? And I said, yes, two of my aunts are doctors, actually. Like,
they're pretty black.
I ever seen? And as you can see, I'm black and my aunts are black.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, that's it. And I was like, what would make you say something like that? What would make you feel that way? But they have just never been exposed to seeing themselves, seeing anyone who comes from where they come from, or even looks remotely like they look like in different atmospheres other than entertainment and sports. And I think that's one thing that I shamelessly, to be honest, especially this past year, have shamelessly just really pushed onto my students, is them seeing themselves or showing images of other minorities in spaces that are not just entertainment and sports.
Right.
So it's just so big because I didn't realize that for my students that they didn't naturally see like I could do that, and there's no reason why you can't. But to answer more specifically your question, the impact on the students, I would say that's an impact that I definitely intentionally put on them, is I need you to see that you can do this, and I am here. How many black teachers have you had? And a student has asked me, and I said, I've seen, quite frankly, in my K through 12, I've never actually had a black teacher. I've seen some. There've always been some in the building, but I was just never assigned to their class. And I, even as a student, always remember making a point to meet those teachers, because I was like, well, they might not be actually my teacher, but I need to meet that teacher, because there's just something about seeing someone who actually looks like you and can relate to your experiences. And just to, again, piggyback on what you're saying on that authenticity piece, because I've, had those students ask me questions, Miss, how do you really act though? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I really act? They're like, yeah, but do you act like this outside of work? And I said, we're at work, so there is a professional setting here. And at the same time, if you come in and your twist out's messed up, I'm going to pull you to the side and help you get that fixed out so that you look okay for the rest of the day. And I'll tell you, next time you got to, this how you got to do it. Right. So, I guess, like you mentioned, the code switching, yes, I do hold my students to an expectation of you need to know how to speak properly in certain situations, and in professional avenues. You need to know the difference between this is friends and family and this is work. And at the same time, I lost my train of thought. I just want them to also see that, I don't want to say I'm just like you, because just because I'm black doesn't necessarily mean I had the same exact experiences as these students, but I can relate. And they honestly, a lot of times they come in expecting me to relate. The parents even themselves, I've had parents say things to me that, I would never say this to another teacher in this school. And those comments have really surprised me, that the parents have even let their guard down, so to speak, not feeling as judged in some of their situations, to share, and so that honestly they can be helped for their needs.
Right. I'm gonna piggyback off of what both of you said. Essentially, the impact of being a male of color in the education field is infinite, and I'm gonna go with that one because sometimes you don't really know how deep your impact is just by showing up to school. And this happened to me in my first year of teaching. It was report card conferences, and students were coming in with their families. And I can't tell you the amount of times that parents who've come in, who have never come into the school that year before, not open house or anything like that, will come into report card conferences and see me and be like, oh, wait a minute, you're black. Right. And I'm like, yeah.
Pretty much.
And so even the parents, they haven't experienced that either, a whole lot of times. And so when they see me, they're like their whole mood sort of changes, and most of them become relieved, okay, you get it, type of thing. So I think that's very important. And I didn't know that was even an impact when I first got in, because I was just I'm just trying to be an educator. And so as the years gone on, though, I realized that more and more students have trouble identifying themselves outside of those entertainment and sports roles like you brought up, because a lot of times what you see out in the media and the real world, etc., is sports and entertainment. You see, your Odell Beckhams, and then you see your Drakes, as you pointed out before, and you see your Love and Hip Hops. You know what I'm saying? You see all these different aspects of sports and entertainment. But not a lot of times you see in the media, this doctor who is African American, created some breakthrough. And it happens, but we don't see it, Or not often do you even see a whole lot of black teachers or Latinx teachers or anything like that coming up and in the spotlight. We don't see that often. So the kids, they only do what they can see, or they only follow what they can see. And us being in the classroom on the front lines, and then being able to see us, being able to communicate with us, talk to us, have instruction from us, we're actually giving them an opportunity to have an avenue to those other career fields that aren't sports and entertainment. So definitely gonna steal the infinite answer from you and go with that one.
And for me, I think the biggest impact that it is for me is like I feel like I had to fight a double fight, not just as an African American, but as an immigrant who had to come to this country and learn a new culture, a new language, and overcome all that. It's like for me, when I talk to my scholars and I'm like, why are you not doing your work? Like, why are you not doing this? They're like, well, I don't need to do this. I'm gonna be in the NBA. Or in the, I'm like, and it just, for me, I'm just like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, there's only like, you can't just focus on that and be like, I'm gonna get there without having to do any work. Like, even college, you have to make grades to play in high school. You have to make grades to play in college. Like, you don't just become, Odell Beckham Jr. without doing any math. Like, he didn't just jump, like, he didn't just jump ship to the NFL from elementary school. He had to actually put in some kind of work. And it's like, and what if that doesn't work out? But Mr. Alcide, I'm gonna make it. I'm really good. I'm like, yes, I knew a lot of guys who were really good that I grew up with also, and now they're teachers, such as you and Glenn Morning, and different guys who were like, it just doesn't always have to be sports. You can want to still pursue that dream. That's healthy. That's great.
Or even just seeing more outside of like the player aspects of sports.
Right.
Sports is so big.
It's
and
so
you go
big.
into sports management, sports medicine.
Right.
There's so many avenues for
Right.
that. Even if you were like behind the camera,
Right.
and they're just like, no, but I've got to be playing. I'm like, no, it's bigger than that.
Right.
It's so much bigger than that.
Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like that's part of the problem. Like that's what they see. They don't see the back end of the deal. They don't see the agents. They don't see like any of these other sort of aspects of sports or entertainment.
Right.
They just go with what they see and they're like, I'm gonna do that.
Right.
And half the battle too is like I try to tell my students every year, especially the athletes, like that's a target that you should always try to strive for if you want to do that. But it's a really small target. And if you think about, for example, you want to be a professional basketball player, there are 2 rounds in that draft. And about what 60 to 80 players that may get picked up on the team, undrafted or drafted, and then out of that, rosters get created, and that's what happens. And so it's like, yeah, you want to do that, you work hard towards that, but also do not forget that your mind is a terrible thing to waste as well.
Right.
And if you get to that point, you don't hit that target,
Right.
what else are you gonna do?
Right. Right. So yeah, for me, like I really want to just change the outlook on kids just thinking I need to be an athlete or I need to be a rapper for me to have a successful career. Like that's why for me it's like we talked about this offline. It's hard for me to just like pursue other dreams when I feel like this purpose here, like I can actually change somebody's life. And that's for me. That's the weight to kind of get into Raymond's point. That's the weight that I feel like it's on me. I feel like I have to do this. And I don't know if that's good or bad for me personally. Maybe it's not good for me personally, but I feel like if I don't do this, then I'm letting people down. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I feel like the weight is. And if we're gonna lead into that, I don't know if you wanted to jump. I thought you were gonna. If we're gonna lead into the next point, I often say like I didn't choose education; it chose me because I didn't go to school to be a teacher. I never thought I could be a teacher because I thought I was too flawed to be a teacher. Like whether it was I didn't speak English well enough growing up, whether it's lack of patience, whether it's different things. I never thought that would be me. So for me to be a teacher now, I feel like it's just kind of like come full circle with the belief of what you think you couldn't do, that you could actually do it. And that's what I always want to like preach to my kids. Like, even if you don't think you could do it now, you never know in 20 years where you'll end up. And you'll look back and laugh at this like, wow, look at me at 12 saying I could never do this or do that.